This time I have a TEAC 808. This is a reel-to-reel vacuum tube tape recorder. This one's got 4 heads on it. It's got a 4-track head and a 2-track playback head, but it's a 4-track quarter track recorder. This one's got a multitude of problems that we need to deal with on this one today. Low take-up torque, no playback on the right channel, no record on the left channel. It's got a bunch of stuff wrong with it. This is a TEAC 808 reel-to-reel. It's an all-tube unit. I've got it currently plugged in to the dim bulb tester, and we're going to turn the power on. Actually, I've already turned it on. And we're not drawing much in the way of excessive current. The dim bulb is very dim, which is good. That's what we want to see. The motors are not on yet, though. Motor doesn't come on until I raise up the auto stop. And now you see the motor comes on. And it draws a little more power, but it's not drawing excessive power. If I stall out the capstan motor, you'll see that the light will get a bit brighter as it's drawing more power, but nothing excessive. So I think I can take the dim bulb out, put it into full power, and we'll let this thing warm up. I've had it sitting here warming up on the dim bulb now for about 15 minutes. That's just to allow capacitors and stuff to reform at lower voltages and lower currents. That's what you want to do when you got a vintage piece like this. I got to thread a tape up on here. Look at this. Look at these tape hubs. If you ever seen anything like this, people's using a piece of water hose, like for a car heater, radiator hose, heater core hose, I guess is what this is. That's what they've been using to hold the tape spools on. I'm going to thread up a couple reels on here, and we'll see what this thing does, if anything. And I got the heat going on right now, but it's getting warmer in here, so I can shut that noise down here momentarily. I just try to turn it on for a bit. It's starting to get cold out. We're going to have a cold snap over the next couple days. They say it's going to get down to -10, which is about as cold as it ever gets here. That's Celsius, by the way. That's still on the positive side on the Fahrenheit scale, but that's about as cold as it ever gets in these parts. They're calling for that over the next few days. And it's certainly starting to cool down a bit. It's down around, I guess, around 5 or 6 degrees right now. Got the heat going on here for about the last, I don't know, half an hour or so. Brought it up to a more tolerable 11 degrees centigrade or Celsius. So we're gonna let the heat run for a few more minutes as I thread up a tape, and we'll see what, if anything, this thing does. And we're gonna have to pull it apart, I'm sure. I don't know if this is the original cabinet or not, but we're gonna have to rip this thing apart. I'm pretty sure. I gotta like these pegs on here. There's no splines on the actual shaft. They're completely smooth. So this lines up with one of the holes here on the take up and supply spools. And on this one here, it'll go into one of these little notches, I'm sure. Or will it? Or will it? It might not. Oh, look, I can't put this reel on. It's too small. Can't put a 3-inch reel on this reel-to-reel machine. The threading pattern on this one would be in behind this arm, around through the slot here. I guess it goes through this slot, through the capstan and pinch roller, then under this arm, like that, and onto the take-up. Okay, I know this is not how you're supposed to thread reel to reel, but everybody did this. Everybody used a slot and just pulled it tight that way. That's how everyone used it. That's not how I was taught. I was taught to wind it around so that there's no overlap, but be that as it may, it is now threaded. And we will find out momentarily if this thing produces any sound. So on the front here, there's buttons. It's worn off, so I don't know what they say, but I would imagine one of these is a start and one is a stop button. And we switch the modes by switching it either to fast forward. You guys can't see that, but it says fast forward, rewind, or play. When you put it in play, it brings up the tape pads. Now, what happens when I push buttons here? Does anything happen? Nothing happens there. What about this one? Okay. Well, that part works. And I see something happening on the meter. Just turn the volume up here a bit. I hear something. Oh, listen, I hear music. one channel works. It's noisy. 2-track or 4-track. There might not be anything else on that tape. Oh, yeah, there is. It's a microphone input, line input. This recording is in 15 IPS, that's why it sounds on the wrong speed. You gotta clean those controls. This okay, now I know at least it's not going to destroy my tape. That button is stop. That button is start. That button is obviously record. To fast forward, we would switch it to fast forward and press the start button and the stop button. To rewind, switch it to rewind and press the start button. I'm going to put a tape on that I know has more music on than this, because this is a test tape. I'll put on my recorded tape, and we'll listen to a tape that's got a full recording on it. I just wanted to try it on this one. This is a tape that I make recordings on, so it's not full, it's just got bits and pieces on it. Looks like the tape counter's not moving, that'll be a belt, but I'm not too really that concerned about that. Hold on a second. I can't, because my tape does not have a hole to fit through that spool, so I can't use this tape. Well, that's kind of useless. That was kind of an oversight by TEAC. You got to use special reels. Not every reel has holes in them, but that's why those holes are there, in case people wondered why some tapes had holes in them in the reels like that. That's why they were there. This tape's not going to work, and this is a tape that's got a full tape of stereo music on 2 tracks, and let's see, what is it? 1 and 3 was at 15 or 7.5, and 2 and 4 is at 15 IPS. Recorded on my TEAC 3340. I can't use this tape though because it won't fit on this machine. What the? Oh, listen, it's humming. I wonder why it's humming. If I looking through all my tapes, I don't have very many that actually have the holes in them. More don't, believe it or not, have the holes that will support this type of reel structure. I have a bunch of these small tapes that will, but my other ones, most of my 7-inch reels, unfortunately don't, which is kind of unusual, but that's the way it is. Now this thing's humming, so obviously it doesn't know the words, which is fine, because this tape that I'm putting on is instrumental material from Music Bakery, you know, so that some fraudulent company will make a bogus copyright claim. Oh, okay, well, it didn't start up fast enough. We'll just help it along here. Get going. So the right channel is not very good. Left channel is a little better. I set them both to like the halfway point. Not very much output. Crank this up all the way for both. I see deflections on the meters though, so we know that the amplifier is working at least from the control here. Just making sure the switches aren't dirty. Okay, I should be hearing something I should be hearing something on that other channel, which I'm not. So I guess the first thing to do is to see if the head itself is dirty. So we'll just rewind the tape. I gotta pull this. I gotta pull this cover off somehow because I don't have access to the heads with just this slot here. Okay, let's just take a look at these heads. It's a 3-head machine. Actually, you know what? It's actually a 4-head machine. What the heck? What do we got here? I think it probably what it has. It probably has a 2-track and a 4-track head. This is an erase head. We're going to have one for 2-track playback for half-track tape and one for 4-channel, and that's what this is for. This is to switch between one and the other. Let's just see which one. Obviously, that's going to be a record head there. If I start this up, do I hear any hum? I should hear hum. I might have to actually. I'll take the tape reel off just so it doesn't. I don't have tape spinning everywhere. I may have to actually start that up. I want to see if I get any hum when I touch the terminals around the back of the head here. Okay, nothing there, but I do hear something there. I don't hear anything on this side. So we may have a preamp problem. If I switch this to 2-track, it should probably switch it to this head. Yeah, this is going to be the 2-track head. That's the 2-track and this is the 4-track, because now I don't hear anything. When I touch here and over here, I still don't hear anything. We might have a switch problem here, you know that? I should hear the hum. So we have a right channel problem, and it affects both a preamp problem, and it's affecting both of them. So, but it's not affecting it after the control, because when I turn the control, we see deflection of the meter. Of course, when it's oh yeah, I've still got it even without the motor running. You should hear noise there. You should hear as much noise on this channel, but we're not. That's supposed to be glued down, but the glue's come off. 2-track mode. Nothing. So we've got to. Now it could be one of these switches too that's acting up. But that's record selector, not playback. Alright, so that's this switch here is just to affect whether you're recording left, like channel 1 or channel 2 or stereo. I just noticed that it said record selector. So that makes no difference. Our playback is all on this side over here. Okay, so we gotta pull this thing apart. So let me get disassembly and we'll get into the amplifier section. Here's another unique feature of this machine here. When you are making a recording, you really don't have any indication. Well, I guess you would by turning this control, because you'll hear the sound through the speakers or through the output amplifier. This is actually a balance control between the tape, playback, and the source. So I've got a signal going in now. We don't hear anything because I have to back these controls over. Mic input, left and right. Still don't get really any indication of my recording level though. Coming through here. Right? That's kind of odd. Presumably, if you were making a recording and you were halfway between, you would hear a mix of between the signal going into the line input and what's coming back from the playback head at the same time. So you would hear an echo, basically, as you were making your recording. Kind of an interesting design this is. Okay, let's pull this machine apart. More interesting is the power receptacle. It's got this special plug. It's a very small plug. You can't just plug in an extension cord or anything into the end of it because the actual power receptacle is about that size. So if you lose this power cord, you're not powering this machine up. Time to rip it apart. I'm thinking it's probably just these slotted screws around the edge, and the back should, I could be completely wrong, but we'll take these out first and see. Maybe it's these ones that have to come out, but we'll take these ones out first from this bezel. The unit should pop out from the front, but these look to be threaded into wood, so yeah, that might be holding this whole piece in place. So I hope that's the hope, is that I pull these 4 screws out and I can lift the back off, and then I have the chassis bare that I can get at to work on. I've not worked on one of these ones before, like a lot of these reel-to-reels. Not a reel-to-reel expert, I'm the first to admit that. The shop that I worked at, we refused reel-to-reels. I guess the owner of the shop, long before I worked for him, he had a bad experience with a reel-to-reel machine once. And the guy that I worked for, he was, you know, he made the rules as to what we would service and what we would not service. And anyway, he just decided that this was even before I started there, that we did not service reel-to-reels because, again, I think he probably had a bad experience servicing one himself, because the guy I worked for, well, he wasn't really a tech. He really didn't know what the heck he was doing. His dad started the business. His dad, I don't think, really knew what he was doing either. But anyway, he made the rules. We didn't work on reel-to-reel. If someone walked in with a reel-to-reel, we told them to take it somewhere else. And the somewhere else was usually a shop across the street, which I was doing contract work for. So I ended up doing a few, but not a lot. You know, in my years in servicing, I may have worked on maybe 100 reel-to-reel machines over 20 years. Most of them were Sonys and Akai's. Anyway, this mechanism, it just lifts out, and the back separates. So let me get the back out of the way. I know you guys want to see the back of this one, so let's just turn it around. How's that look? So we have direct drive motors, beautiful. One belt drive motor down here that drives the capstan and the belt. Appears to be it appears to be in good shape. There's a solenoid here that raises the pinch roller and a vacuum tube amp. Our bias adjustments are here. We had no sound out of one channel, so we may have a bad tube, or we may have bad capacitors, and well, we probably do have bad capacitors on this thing considering the age of it. Looks like someone's done a little bit of work here. There's been a resistor that's been added here, but I would imagine that we probably do have some bad caps in here, and or tubes, and or both. The capacitors in here, they may be actually okay. They're made by Suzuki, the same company that made crappy motorcycles and cars. What the hell is this screw doing just stuck in the chassis like that? Wonder where that came from. Just stuck there. These are oil-filled caps. It doesn't have any paper that I can see. They're all oil-filled. They are probably okay. Guaranteed that these are going to be filled with PCB oil. So you can't just throw these in the garbage. They have to be treated as hazardous waste. So I'm going to try to avoid doing anything with these caps. Some of the electrolytics might need to be replaced, but I'm sure these oil-filled caps, as a rule, didn't go bad, like the paper ones that were used in a lot of the American radios did. So these are likely okay. I'm just going to clean these controls up here. I got a bunch of controls, switches and controls that need to be cleaned. I have to hold this because if I let go of it, it's going to fall over. So I'm going to have to put something under here to prop it up. Maybe a roll of tape hold it. Will that stop it? Yeah, that'll stop it from tipping over. There we go. All right. Otherwise, this thing would fall over. So I'm going to clean these controls up, clean these switches and controls. And then we'll fire this thing up again and see if we can figure out why I'm not getting sound on one channel. It could be, I'm thinking it could be a bad tube. I don't hear any serious hum. I hear a little bit of hum, but again, I have my amplifier cranked up quite loud. We could have a bad tube on here or a resistor that's going bad. I guess we'll clean the controls up first and see whether that alleviates some of the problem, because well, there's lots of controls on here, as you heard when I was moving the playback controls over here, which is this one. It was quite noisy. Another thing I gotta check is that all the tubes are properly seated, because obviously tubes that aren't seated properly are not going to be not going to make a good connection. This is the equalizer switch. I'll give that a shot of cleaner. This is an open switch. There's no cover to it. Open to getting dirt in it. This is for the tape speed. Just changes the equalization. And clean these controls up. I'm going to do the rest for the other controls and switches. There's a switch here also for when it goes into play. And fast forward or rewind the switch here, clean that one up. And we'll clean up the other controls. These are more for recording, but they still are dirty, so they still need to be cleaned up. Okay, I've cleaned the controls. Let's just do our unscientific test, and I will touch the, got the volume turned up here, you can see, got it all the way to tape side. Let's just touch the playback head. Full deflection, and the other channel is where? Ah, okay. I now have deflection. Could it be that all I needed to do was clean some switches? Let's load up a tape and find out. Now remember, I had no audio from the right channel whatsoever. Only the left channel. So let's try this. Play and start. And it seems to be going on both channels. Wrong speed, but let's clean the heads and stop that. I don't want it to rewind all the way back. We'll just pull the tape out of here. I'll clean the heads and we will see how the it might be going the wrong speed because it's sitting on its side for starters. But we'll clean the heads and see if that improves the sound quality from both channels. See how they look. Oh yeah, there's a fair bit of wear on these heads too. Looking at the heads, they look to be relatively, they're dirty as hell. Well, I'll get close up here. The heads themselves are not clean, that's for sure. But take a look at the wear that's on them. There's looks to be a fair bit of wear on these heads if we look down here. I mean, it's not enough to catch your fingernail on, but you can certainly see the ridge right down here. You see, there's a ridge there, and there's another ridge on this one. So the heads themselves certainly have a few hours on them. Alright, let me get something to clean these up with, and we'll see if it improves the sound quality a little bit. But we've made some progress, which is, well, we're getting there. We got something that we didn't have before, that's for sure. Alright, playback head. Yeah, there's a fair bit of dirt on that one. This one doesn't really matter so much because we're not using it. It's a half-track head. I'll show you the difference of them too. This is a quarter-track record head, but the heads themselves were actually quite filthy, which would be expected because this thing is as old as the hills and it probably hasn't been used in as many years. I'm actually surprised that it works as well as it does, considering I haven't put any parts into it. But yeah, you can see that there was a, that might explain why the sound quality was so poor when I tried playing the tape. Let's thread it up again here. And see whether that improves. So we close the gate and hit start. Yeah, much better. There's the left channel, right channel. That hum that I was hearing before, well, that was because I cranked the amp up all the way, yeah. I mean, that's going to be expected. You know, at normal listening levels, you're not going to hear that because that's just picking up all the background noise. Whoops. Got to get this thing to start up. That's the tension of the tape. It's got enough tension. It's just sitting on its side like this. The weight of the arm. I'm going to tip this thing up the right way so we can check out some of the other settings and adjustments and stuff and make sure everything's working properly on it. So far it's working a lot better than it was when I started on it, that's for sure. When I started on it, it wouldn't play back on the right channel. And all I've done is I cleaned the switch here, I cleaned that switch and the equalizer switch. I haven't even done this switch yet. Or no, did I? I don't think I did that switch. I probably should. That's on the top side. I got to turn it over to get to that one, but I haven't done that switch. That's the one that selects between the 4-track head and the 2-track head for playing back half-track material. If I put it on that mode now, you'll hear the music on the other side of the tape. In addition to the music on the front side of the tape, you'll hear front and back playing at the same time because it plays a half track instead of a quarter track. And we can actually see that if I showed you the heads while it's still on its side here, you'll see the difference in the width of the gap. If you didn't see it when I had the tape out before. There's a good shot there. You can see the difference in the width. Right, here's the, this is the quarter track. You can see the two distinct pickup portions right there and there. You can see how wide they are. They're a quarter of a track wide. And if we look at this other one down here, this is a half a track. And you can see how much wider these ones are. That's for the half track playback. So what does that give you? What improvement does that make? Well, if you're playing a quarter track tape, it makes no improvement at all because it's not going to play properly if you put it in half track. Half track tape requires, or a quarter track tape requires quarter track head to play it back. Now, if there was nothing recorded on the other side of the tape, playing it back in the 2-track mode would decrease your signal to noise ratio because you've got a wide head gap that's tracing a small track on the tape. But if you were playing a half-track tape, in other words, a tape that was recorded either on a half-track stereo recorder, which records 2 channels on the tape, both going the same direction, one on one half of the tape and one on the other half of the tape. The problem with the half-track stereo is that you couldn't turn the tape over. It was a single play because you used the full width of the tape. Or if you were playing back a tape from a half-track mono machine, which there were many half-track, and there was also full-track mono machines that were used. A lot of AM radio stations used full-track mono machines because they didn't need a second track. You increased your signal-to-noise ratio because the track was wider, so it took up more space on the tape. So a 2-track recorded tape playing back in the 2-track mode will sound better than playing it back in the 4-track mode, even though both of them would work equally as well. It's just that you're picking up the entire dynamic range and the entire signal on the tape, whereas in 4-track mode the signal's there, but you're only picking up half of it from the 4-track head. So it's really only useful if you're playing back a mono tape or a stereo 2-channel tape. Other than that, you leave it in 4-track mode all the time. There's no point in switching it at all because there's no advantage to it. This machine only records in 1/4 track. It doesn't record in half-track. Now what someone could do is they could replace this head with a half-track head and record in half-track, but you'd also have to change the erase head because this is a 1/4 track erase head. So if you tried to record on a tape that had something else on it, even if you're using a 2-track head, the other channels are not going to be erased. So to make this a 2-track recorder, you'd have to change both the record head and the erase head. This is a 4-track head that's in here now, 1/4 track. And that's what most people would leave this as. This is more just for a playback of pre-recorded material that was recorded on a 2-track machine. It will increase the signal-to-noise ratio. The record and playback amplifiers on this unit are made up of 12 AX7 and 12 AT7s. One channel here, the other channel there, and there's a couple more tubes up here. These are probably in the bias circuit. We're just going to push them all down and make sure that all the tubes are seated, because vacuum tubes did have a tendency to work their way loose over the years. We'll just make sure everything is seated down here. The power's off right now, by the way, just to do this. And we'll give it some more testing and see how it sounds. And maybe do some test recording on it, see if it records and see how that sounds. I like this in the back. They just wrote the model number in it with pen and the serial number, and it says 4-track record. So that would be what it was ordered with from the factory for 4-track recording. Here's the amplifier section of this one. I've identified which is the left and the right side. Obviously, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. Clicking from the front, that's the left, and that's the right. There's a screw missing from each one too. Interesting. That's just a plate. Two 12 AX7s and two 12 AT7s. Playback circuit, playback preamp, I'm sure. This is record here. If I pop one of these out, I'll lose the channel. Like if I pop this one out. Okay, lost the right channel. Swap the tubes around from one channel to the other to see if the one channel that's weaker gets stronger, and it does not. So it's not I put the tubes back in the original orientation, but it's not a weak tube. That's one thing you can do to quickly determine when you've got one channel that's stronger than the other and you've got identical tubes. If you want to rule out a tube without using a tube tester, which I have a tube tester, I just don't have the chart that tells me which socket to plug them in. You know, I bought it from a guy, and when he shows up to meet me to deliver the thing, oh, I forgot the tube chart. Well, here, give me the money and I'll give you the tube tester, and I will email you the tube chart. Well, that was months ago, and he's yet to email me the tube chart, so I guess I'm going to have to go and do some research and see if I can find the actual tube chart for it. But that's why I don't have my tube tester out. I found other charts for different models, but not for the one that I have. That's where I'm at. As the model that I have, I don't have the chart for it. I'll do a video on it at some point.Maybe somebody out there's got one and they can send it to me. But I don't have it, so can't test the tubes with that. So I just rely on the other tested and true method of doing it, and that's just to swap one around to the other channel and see whether the sound comes back, which it didn't. So the low sound on the left channel on record, playback is fine, right? Playback is perfect, but the low channel on record passing through is not a problem with a tube. It's something else. It could be there might even be internal controls in here that I haven't looked at yet, but I'm just kind of taking a look at it. Over here, there's a switch to switch between 100 volts and 117. So for the Japanese market, that would be in the 100 volt position. It just changes, obviously, a primary tap. So it can operate on 117 or 100 volts for the Japanese market. That's the capstan motor. We're seeing how freely it's turning, which is turning nice and freely. And the belt, of course, is in good shape. So I'm just going to investigate a bit and see if I can find out why the left channel is a little bit low on record. This resistor here looks like it is come unsoldered from this pin right there. You can see it. Let me move that wire out of the way. I believe that's supposed to be soldered on there. Maybe that's my problem. What do you think? You think it might be my problem? Well, we'll tack that back down. That was just sitting there like that. Like it was sitting in there just like that. And I was just tracing the wires. This is the left channel here. The right channel are these controls down here. Down here, that's the right channel. Line and mic, line and mic. And the audio comes in from the input down the bottom here. We can trace the audio input for the line level, and it comes up to this control. Goes through this control, goes through a resistor, and ends up here. And I just happen to just move this so I can see it, and oh, this resistor is popped off. So I'm just going to resolder that back down where it came from. So it makes me nervous working on this old stuff, right? You never know what's gonna break when you touch it. Old soldered connections that are, 60 plus years old. I'm going to say this is 60 plus years old. I'm sure that this machine is from the early 1960s. Don't know exactly which year this one was made, but it's old. It's probably older than I am. Or at least getting to be as old as I am. If it's not over 60 years old, I would be surprised. That's my dog that's making that noise out at the door, by the way. It's a dog in a cat's body. It wants to play. The cat wants to play fetch. And I'm ignoring him. And he can hear me talking to the camera. So every time he hears me talk to the camera, he'll sit outside the door and howl because he wants me to go play fetch with him. So I may have to just take a break and go play fetch just to keep the little bastard happy. There's an electrolytic here, 100 microfarad, 6 volts. One electrolytic here, a couple of these ugly PCB filled oil capacitors. Guaranteed they are PCB filled because that's what they used back then. Is they used PCBs, and until they found out that people were dropping dead from cancer a few years later after dealing with the PCB oil. Yeah, it was nasty stuff that you can't just throw these things out. They are supposed to be they're supposed to be recycled. Although I don't know too many shops that would go to the headache of doing that, because the cost of doing it is prohibitive in many cases, just because, well, it's a hazardous waste, right? So you gotta deal with it. So a lot of places don't. They just throw it in the trash. Input comes in up here. I'm just tracing these wires. That looks to be an input wire right there. Is that the input up here? Probably. Just seeing where it goes. So there's a small 10 microfarad electrolytic in here. I'm going to change this one out. That wire comes right up into here. That's the signal goes into this tube here. I'm going to change this cap just because it almost looks like the plug in the end is coming out. If we look at it here, it almost looks like this is ready to spill its guts. So I'm going to cut this one out and just tack another one over top of it. I'm not going to pull the board out or anything. I don't want to disturb any wires here if I don't have to, just because well, it's just the chances of something breaking on something this old are pretty high. So if I don't have to actually remove the circuit board to work on it, I don't want to, just because, well, it's circuit boards. Early circuit boards were not the most reliable things in the world. So I'm just going to clip this capacitor out and tack another one on below it to the stub that remains. I can get the other side of this cut off here. Okay, there we go. Got a couple pegs to solder onto. I'll put a new cap in place and we'll try it again and see if it's improved. I think I'll probably do them both. Let me get the new cap in there. Someone's getting annoying. It's C23. Incidentally, if you didn't know, if you were interested, it's C23. So there's the new cap that I've just installed. It won't hurt anything, it'll just hang in there. And I wonder if I should also do this at 106 volts down here. It looks like it probably could use replacing, so let's just grab one of those and do that one. I'll do the same two on the other channel while I've got it apart. That one and this one. We'll just change those 4 caps and see what. And oh, there's another one up here too. There's that another one. Nope, that one's a. It's another electrolytic. So we'll change this one as well. If I can get at it here. In amongst all the wires, yeah. 100 microfarad at 6. They're both 100 at 6. I'm sure I've got a couple of those. We'll change those out next. This is the thing that's making all that noise. That's right. Stick your ass at the camera, cat. Turn around. This bloody cat weighs about 20 pounds. And he thinks he's a dog. And if you don't pick him up and pet him and throw things for him to retrieve, he just becomes very, very annoying. And when you're trying to concentrate, the last thing you want to have is to be distracted by a cat that constantly meows. So I gotta go play with the cat for a few minutes to keep him happy. Here, look at the camera, cat. Show the camera your big blue eyes. This was supposed to be a Siamese cat. When I adopted him, they said he was Siamese. He's not. He's more of a ragdoll than a Siamese. Long hair, and well, acts like a Siamese. It's a ragdoll. Long fur, sheds a lot, but very affectionate cat. Gotta go play with this thing for a bit, then we'll change out those caps. Then I don't have to listen to him meow at the door. Let's take a look at the caps that I just cut out. So one's a 10 and the other is a 100, I think it was. Yeah, one's a 10 and one's a 100. So I've zeroed out the meter. This is the 100. So 100 should measure about 1.2 if it's good, and it is actually measuring 2.0. So it wasn't really bad, but I changed it anyway. What about this other one? What about this 10? It's not even going to measure on here, but it's measuring 7.4, so it probably wasn't bad. I just changed it for good measure because it looked like it was starting to go bad here if we look at the end of it here. But ESR wise, it's not bad. Let's measure capacity wise and see what the capacity is. And again, I still haven't changed this third one, but I've changed 2 of the 3 that are up in that preamp circuit where that tube is. We'll just switch this over to capacitance, and we'll measure this capacitor here and see whether this one's anywhere close to 10 microfarads. It may have lost capacity, and internally, sometimes your ESR can be messed up if it develops internal leakage. It's measuring 40, which is a clear sign that that cap has gone bad because there's internal resistance. Same with this one here. 225, there's going to be internal resistance, and that's why it's measuring like that. That's typically what happens. The cap builds up internal resistance, and the capacity measures really high. Now, of course, that should go to infinite as it charges. But as you can see, this thing's hanging around 3.3 mega ohms. 3.2, 3.3 mega ohms. So we have some internal leakage on this one, and I would expect that this other one here's got internal leakage too. So I've crimped the wire around the stub and we'll solder it in place. This one's been sitting here for a while. This one came down from the interior along with a crown DC300 that's going to be rebuilt as well. And I've got the rebuild kit for that, so we're going to change all the parts in the kit. I just haven't had time to get to it. The guys from the interior that brought me this one, and I've just been so bloody busy. I'm playing catch up now to try to catch up on the mountain of stuff that I've got in here for repair. I'm starting to gradually catch up on everything that has been in here for far too long. But stuff, I had a real busy summer where stuff was coming in faster than I could fix it. So I'm now starting to get to stuff that's been sitting around here for a few months, and well, this has certainly been here for a while. I'm starting to finally get to some of this old vintage stuff and get it out of here. I'm trying to get people to pick their stuff up too. I mean, I've got stuff that's been sitting here, you know, for months, trying to get stuff picked up. But I get so bloody busy between this and work and everything else that I'm involved in, all the other projects I've got on the go. I never enough hours in the day. So I have to remove these because I need to get in behind them, and I don't want to pry on anything that could break. So we're going to cut those clips out of the way just so that I can get to this capacitor that's down here. We'll change out the 3 on the other channel as well, because if they're bad on one channel, they'll be bad on the other. You'll see what I mean about the cat though, right? I took him inside and I just got his stupid stuffed toy that he was dragged over and stuck by the door. And I just grabbed his stuffed toy and threw it up the stairs, and of course he goes running up the stairs, thump 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 thump, grabs his toy, comes back, drops it for me. I threw it the other way. He runs off, grabs it, drops it, brings it back, drops it back at my feet. I throw it again, and brings it back a third time. Okay, great. And then threw it a fourth time, and he never came back. So I guess I tuckered him out. Now he's going to go sleep it off for the rest of the afternoon, and I won't have to listen to him meowing outside the door. You know, when you got an animal that's barking, whether it's a dog barking or a cat that's meowing, when you're trying to concentrate on something, the last thing, it's just the most annoying thing. I had some trouble with my email client yesterday, and it decided it just did not want to work anymore. My Office 2007 that has Outlook 2007, and it just decided that it no longer wants to connect to Gmail servers. It just comes up, authentication failure. And I hit the right password in, authentication failure, authentication. I was farting around with that for hours yesterday, trying to figure out why is it rejecting the password. I guess Google's no longer supporting the older email client, so I ended up having to put in Thunderbird. And of course I had to do it on my other machine because my old machine was only running a 32-bit version of Windows 7, and I run Windows 7 here still. And Thunderbird says, sorry, even though I've got the same software from the same installer running on the wife's old 32-bit Windows 7 computer. I tried to install it on my more modern 32-bit Windows 7 computer, and it said, sorry, only 64-bit supported. So I guess the installer goes out and downloads what it needs. So I went and put the Thunderbird on my desktop computer. Use that for my email client for things that I can't deal with my phone, because a lot of stuff I just do with my phone these days, right? But anyway, while I was trying to figure out why the hell the password wasn't working, and of course the first thing that happens is you think you got the wrong password, so you change your password. So now I got to change my password across all my devices. Well, wouldn't you know, I use a BlackBerry Hub. That's my email client on my phone. I don't use Gmail. I probably could, but I use BlackBerry's Hub, which is because I'm a former BlackBerry user. And it's now coming up, authentication failure on what was working before. I had to go to the Play Store and download an update for that to make that work. But that was my day yesterday. My day from hell was trying to get my stupid email working again because something changed in the back end. And I just hate these changes. It's like when you're sitting in the drive-thru going to order something, and you know they want you to use an app to collect points, etc. And you go to open your app to collect your points or do whatever you need to do, and you're sitting in the drive-thru, and then all of a sudden you use it the day before. The day before you use it. In this case, it was my Tim Hortons app. I wanted to, get my points for my free cup of coffee once in a while. So I'm in the drive-thru and I open the Tim Hortons app. Now I used it on Monday when I went through at work. No problem. Go to open it yesterday. I'm sorry, you have to wait for your app to update. So I sat there in the drive-thru, and I'm not kidding you. I sat there for 15 minutes, and the lady's like, "Can you move your car?" And I said, "No, I can't move my car," because I sat in line, and then I opened the app, and it says the app has to update. Actually, I'd placed my order. It was when I got to the window, and I was waiting for it to update. so she could scan my code. I said, I want my coffee. It's a free one, right? I have enough points. I'm getting a free coffee today. So I want my $2.50 coffee. But I want it for free. And I have to scan the code on your stupid app because you did away with your plastic cards that we used to be able to use. So now your app needs to update. So everyone behind me is going to have to wait. And it took 15 minutes by the time the thing downloaded and it unpacked and it installed. And then of course this happens. It asked me to log in with my password that I don't remember. So now I have to send a password reminder and wait for the reminder to come down by email and then change my password. All the while people behind me in the line were probably wondering, who the hell's holding up the line? Well, it was me, but it wasn't my fault. It was their stupid app that would not let me open it one more time just so I could use it one time. You know, it would be nice if it comes up and says, this app is going to expire and needs to be updated soon. Oh, no. You know, that way at least you've got a warning, right? You can use it that one last time and then update it when you're done. But no, that's not the way it works. It's just we need to update the app now, and we're not going to let you use it until you update it. And when that happens, I take great pleasure in making everybody else suffer behind me, because if I'm going to suffer waiting for an app to update, then so is everybody else. That's as bloody bad as Apple. I was doing a security system install and got everything all done. Got the whole system installed for the customer, including their cameras. And she's going to install the app on her phone so she can look at her cameras remotely, because this is through work, right? And when she goes to install the app, it comes up and it says, you must have iOS version, I think it was 13 or better. And her phone was at like iOS version, or was it 13 or 14? I forget. Anyway, she was at 12.8 and she required 13. So I said, okay, you're going to have to update your phone. So she goes to update her phone, and it says, no update available. So then the question is like, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to use the camera? I said, you're going to go buy a new phone. And she says, well, I don't want to buy a new phone. I said, well, I can't do anything about it. That's a problem. That's between you and Apple. You've got a beef between you and Apple. They've decided that they aren't going to let the software run. This version of software is not going to run on your phone, and there's not a hell of a lot that you can do about it, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And other than take out your system that I just put in, and you'll be getting a $400 bill for breaking your contract if I do that. Okay, let's test this. Okay, play. Oh, why is that one not turning? It's not sounding too bad. I'll show you where I found the problem where the right channel on playback was not working as well. I cleaned all the controls and it came back, but it cut out again, and it was the plug. It was the head plug, where the head plugs in to the back of the unit. I'll show you where that was. All I had to do was just unplug it and reseat it. It was all kind of had some corrosion built up on the right channel input. This plug right here, this is where the playback head plugs in, and one channel, the pin was kind of crusty. I found that out when I had it on its side, and I had no sound on the right channel, and I just happened to bring my hand near that plug, and on one side I had it go right into the amplifier. It was loud and clear, but nothing coming in. So I kind of wiggled it a bit, and the right channel cut in and out. So pop that apart, plug it back in. Just the action of removing it and plugging it back in broke the corrosion away, and the right channel came right back. Probably need a run capacitor for this side. This side is very low torque when it's in play. When it goes into fast forward though, it's got lots of torque. So it might be I don't know, maybe lubricate that one up. I mean, it's working. It's just that when you first start it, it's slow. Whoops. It's slow. Sometimes it doesn't start at all. If you give it a hand to get it going, we'll try lubricating this one. We'll switch this into rewind. I'll take the tape off, see if I can lubricate that motor. Maybe that motor needs it. I mean, it certainly goes fast. Fast forward. So the motor's certainly working, but when I put it in play, it requires a little bit of a helping hand, because otherwise it just doesn't want to start. We'll just take the tape off and see how it is with nothing, with no load, why it's slowing down like this. And the input from the if I switch this over here, still got a bit of an issue on the left channel for record. Got to look into that a bit more as well. Put some oil into the motors now. These are, looks like little oil fillers on the front that you can pop the front panel off and get at this, it looks like. Anyway, there's just little hoses here. We can put some oil into the bearings by just putting the oil can up there and letting some oil go down into the bearing. Kind of cool. Front and back bearings. How's that for easy lubricating? And the capstan motor is right here. There's two little fillers down here for this one. Make sure this thing's unplugged before I stick my hands in there, even though it's turned off. Make sure that there's no juice left in here. That drains it right down into the bearing itself. What could be easier? Just having a port on the front that you could do it to. And there is. You just gotta pull the. I think you gotta pull this faceplate off. Oh, you know what? I bet you that's what those screws are for. That's what those screws are for. Those are plugs that you can undo and just access the other side of those ports with like a syringe and put oil into them. That's what those are. There's three big screws on the front. That's what they're for. They're to cover the oil ports. Well, I don't have a syringe, so I'm just going to do it this way. Just undo the hoses and put the oil right up into it and let it drain down inside. I'll show you where those ports are on the front. It just dawned on me what they were. I thought they were to remove the front panel, but they're actually covering up the oil fillers. Right, these big screws on the front here. If we pop those open, in behind here we'll see the ports. There's the ports. You take a syringe with oil in it and squirt some oil in. Take up a supply side motor, take up side motor, and the main motor. Those are for. Cool. Never seen that on a tape deck before. I've seen ones with the oil holes on the top, right, of the motor that you just fill up the little caps on the top. This case, it's taking it right down inside the chassis itself, inside the motor. Let's see how this thing operates now. Will the motor start up quicker? I would say yes. Oh, it's got quite a bit more torque on it too. That bearing was dry. Interesting. There's probably another oil hole on this capstan bearing at the front here. I bet you that's what those are. Let's thread the tape up again and see how it plays now that I've put some lubricant on. There we go, that's a little better. Sounding better already. So here's something I've observed on the left channel. The right channel's fine. If I play the right channel, left channel. I've got a schematic here looking at the circuitry here. This is our input. This is our 12AX7 is the preamp. Line in goes through the line and level control and into the grid of one half of this 12AX7. The microphone goes into the other half. And then what we have here is we have the plates. Plate from the mic preamp goes through C2 and into VR3. That cap could be a little bit leaky. That might be why it's affecting it when I adjust the mic level, even though there's nothing plugged in. I can hear and the levels shift on the meter a bit here when I adjust the control. So that cap there is probably a little bit leaky. The next stage is out of that preamp going through C3, which is another 0.5. These are the oil-filled caps going into the grid of the 12AT7 on the other side. This unit does not have, I don't think this has, doesn't have speaker outputs on it, so there's no power amp on this one, I don't think. No, this is just preamp. This is the bias oscillator, this circuitry here. The right channel, as I say, the right channel. Here we go! No problem. But the left channel is low. It's there, but it doesn't have as much gain as you can hear. And depending on where that mic control is set, it tends to have a bit of an influence on it. So I'm sure a couple of these caps, C2 is, and they're both the same because both of these are the same. This is the right channel, right? They're not showing any of the values. They're only showing the values on the left channel because they're identical. But I'm thinking one of these caps here is probably these little 0.5s. One of them's maybe a bit leaky. That would certainly create the type of symptom I've got. That's going to be the input level for sure, that one, for line level. And VR3 is the input, that's going to be the input level for the mic level. As you can see, line input goes in through here, through that VR and into the grid, and then the other side, the microphone goes in, comes out the plate, goes through this capacitor, and then through this variable resistor, and then back into the same grid. So something in this area here on the left channel, probably C2, maybe C3 is also. C3 also might be leaking a little bit, getting a little bit of voltage leaking into the grid. These being low power tubes, we're not going to see, not in an output stage, you're going to end up with a red plate and burn up the tubes. That typically won't happen on these because they're triodes, right? They're not putting much current through them, but it will still cause the sound to suffer. So C2 and C3 are the two that I'm interested in looking at on the left side. They're 0.05 at probably 400 volts. The ones I changed were like this one here, 100 microfarad. I changed that one, and I changed, where's the other one? There's 3 of them here. Didn't change that. Where's the other ones I changed? I changed 2 100s at 6 volt and a 10 at 6 volt. So you can see where they are in here. That one was changed. That's a cathode follower. And the other one was a 100 at 6 volts. I'm just looking for it. It's not listed, but I'm sure it's this one here, because one of them is listed as C11, but the other one beside it is not even listed. It says 6 volt 100, but one of them was a 10. And then there was the other one up here, which was also listed as a 6 volt 100. But one of them's not listed. I'm sure it's probably that one there. Anyway, they're both cathode followers. And they're low voltage because they're connected between the cathode and ground, right? So these are low voltage, these ones here. That's why they're only rated at 6 volts. Everything else is high voltage. So it's got to be that one. It's just not labeled. Anyway, I'm going to dig back into that preamp and see if I can figure out why the hell I'm getting distortion in this circuit here. Maybe throw the scope on it too and just see where I'm getting distortion, because I'm getting some distortion on this left channel. And when I adjust the mic input, you see. So something in here. I think probably that cap there, maybe that one as well. Let's just throw it up on its side again. And problem is I can't have my audio plugged in when I'm doing it because of where the stupid plugs are. If I turn it on its side, I'll smash the inputs on it because they're going to stick out the side, right? So I gotta kind of do it without having sound plugged into it. So these are the two that I think. This is C2. That's the one that's coupling the microphone plate in. That's, where is it here? Yeah, that's the one coupling the microphone plate. C2 and C3 is the one coupling the plate from the second half into the next stage. Let's see if I can find them. They're 0.05. I probably don't have a 0.05. Can guarantee you I won't, but I probably have like a 0.047, which is probably going to be close enough. We'll just try swapping those two out, see if that gets rid of that distortion on the left channel and makes the left channel work properly. So I've changed out these two caps, these two oil-filled caps, these 0.05s. In the bin they go, PCBs and all, because I don't care. Like everybody else. We'll try this and see if it's improved the left channel pass-through sound. And if so, I might do the ones on the right channel just for the hell of it, even though they're fine. I'm not going to change them all. I don't have enough to change them all, but I mean, most of these are probably okay. I measured them and they didn't appear to be too bad, but just the way that it's behaving, it's certainly sounding like maybe a bit of leakage between the plate and the grid on that preamp tube. Okay, listen to the left channel. Nice and clear, as is the right. So that's those caps were the problem. Let the next song start. And that has fixed that. I'm thinking maybe I will change the other channel. I'll do the other one as well, the input caps, even though it's sounding fine. Right channel. right channel sounds fine. Do the other ones as well, just because I'm in it and I've got a couple more. I got some more here, so I'm going to change them out, and they're also a little bit different values, so I want to put the same ones in on both sides. So we'll do that, and then we'll test this thing and do a test recording and see how it performs. So let me just change those caps out. If I can get it on camera, I will. I didn't film the other ones just because of the angle of the camera. You couldn't see what I was doing anyway because it was high up on the board, but this one will be on the bottom, so we might be able to see it this time. Well, these ones here are even harder to get at because there's this control in the way, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys. I don't know how I'm going to change this thing. I can't even get at that thing. I got to move some other parts out of the way. Hopefully they aren't going to break. I got resistors and crap in the way. This is going to be fun to change this one. I mean, I'll change it, but I'll change it for sure. It's just going to be tough to get at. You guys probably won't be able to see what I'm doing, but we'll try. So I crimped the lead around the one I've cut out. We're going to solder this in place, and then I got to get the other lead bent around and connected. Okay, I've changed out the caps. Lots of gain now. All right, let's play this tape back and give this thing a helping hand, I'm sure. I don't know why that take-up spool, when you start it up, sometimes it just doesn't start. It likes to, I mean, it's got plenty of torque to run it when it's going. It's just like, it's just when it starts up from a dead stop, it's like you got to give it a hand. I don't know whether that's normal or not. Probably not, but this thing's so bloody old. I mean, it could be the run capacitor for the motor, but again, when you put it into fast forward, no problem, right? And I put it into rewind, no problem either, right? So, put it into play, give it a bit of a helping hand to get it going. It might be because I'm using small reels too. They tend to have a different torque requirement. But I mean, it's you don't want the torque too high because you don't want to stretch your tape, right? So the torque is generally pretty low on the take-up. Same with on the supply side. You just want enough to get good tape tension, but you don't want to stretch your tape, so you don't want it too high. So it'd be a resistor, I'm sure, wire wound resistor that drops the current down to limit the current for the motor, and whether that and someone's added an extra resistor to the back. I wonder if that was in the, I haven't looked at the circuitry for that, but you saw that resistor that was added on the back. But anyway, I think what we'll do now is I will rewind this tape, and I will load up a tape that I can record on, and we'll make a test recording and see how that sounds. With my input, source side, if I put this on tape side, if I hit record and hit the play button, I'll make sure that this thing starts properly. Okay, why is it not recording on the left channel? Switch. So it's got a record problem as well. not recording on the left channel, it looks like. Should be recording. It should be recording. It's not. What I'm curious is the record head plugged in properly? We'll just, because I mean the preamp's working. I've got sound going through it, so, and I got one channel recording, but the other channel's not. There should be another plug down here that the record head is plugged into. I can find it. I'm just going to check that and make sure that that one's seated properly, because I had a problem on the playback side. The is this the record head here? This might be it up here. Or is it this one? This is the bias control, bias adjustment. One of these is going to be the record head, I think. And one will be probably, that's probably the motors. That's probably the plug for the motors. That might be the erase head. Although it says bias adjust, so it could be the record head there. The playback head plugs in down there. I don't see any other plugs on this board. So that might be the record plug. Let's see if reseating it fixed it, because that certainly fixed the playback problem when it wasn't playing back. Okay, power on again. Record. Well, I can hear it. It's there. I can see it on the meter here too. Lots of wow and flutter. Wow. Yeah, now it's recording both channels. Left channel, right channel. That's playback. So that plug was also loose. Here's the source. There's certainly the EQ is the shits on it. Wow and flutter is something else. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I think it's slipping here. I think that's what's happening. Yeah, I think we get a bit of slippage here on this pinch roller, and it doesn't feel real smooth. It's definitely recording both channels. There's the left channel. There's the right channel. It's definitely recording. Getting my arm in the way. Stop hitting the reel. Well, it records. It certainly sounds pretty sharp, like there's an emphasis on treble. Bias is off. Let's just try tweaking the bias adjustments here and see whether that improves it. The bias control somebody's been into, the paint seals are not painted anymore, but they will make a difference for sure. Let's listen to the left channel. The right channel. Try the right one here. Here's the left channel. Yeah, so that does make a difference. I think the head wear is probably affecting this a lot too, because remember when we first looked at it, these heads look to be, they got quite a bit of wear on them, so that might be all this can do, because the head itself has got a fair bit of wear on it. I mean, the signal getting through the amplifier is sounding good. But they're showing the recording level, but they're certainly not, they're not VU meters. They're going from 0 to 10 and then 2 and 3, so they're not like measuring in dB. Oh, those are the right meters or what? They say concert tone on them. I think the pinch roller just pulls out on this thing. Oh, it does. Okay. So, that bearing feels pretty... The fellow that supplied this supplied a couple of extra pinch rollers with it. So I got another pinch roller here. Oh, it doesn't look to be any better shape than this one. This one looks to be even worse shape. But it spins a little more freely than this one. Well, I don't know. They all seem to spin about the same. Let's try this one, see how this one works. That one's any better. Again, a lot of wound flutter, and it's the tape is slipping, right? The tape's slipping between the pinch roller and the cap. But you can see, look at the shape of these things, right? They got big chunks missing out of them, so you can't expect to get good sound out of something like that. I get the sneaking suspicion that somebody's put an extra resistor in here, and this is going to be what is causing this motor to not have much torque. We'll figure that out pretty quick. I'll just disconnect this wire and we'll see whether the motor even turns when it's in play. So power on. If I put it into fast forward, it moves. Okay, if I put it into play, it doesn't move at all. Aha! So someone's added an extra resistor to reduce the torque Normally it's connected directly to this resistor here through this capacitor. Someone added an extra resistor in there. God knows why, but it's going to go because this doesn't have enough torque. And adding an extra resistor in here, I don't know why they did it, but whatever they did, it didn't fix anything. This should bring the torque up on that take-up motor. I love the way people modify stuff. Alright, will this fix the torque problem? I guess we'll find out pretty quick. Or not. Oh, now it doesn't want to turn at all. Just like when I disconnected it, it doesn't want to turn. I bet you this capacitor is bad. Or did something else? Oh, that wire came off. Dope. Well, let's put the black wire back on. My black wire fell off the cap. There we go. That goes to the motor. It's a double cap, right? All right, now will it work now? Ah, what do you know? Huh? That's more like it. Why someone put this resistor in here, I have no idea, but it's not supposed to be there. Okay. Back into record. That's playback. So if I stop and rewind this a bit, we'll kill the inputs. Rewind this a bit. I'm going to rewind this tape now. See, it was nice and fast on rewind. I do think that this head is worn or it's out of whack because somebody's been tweaking it. It's always a possibility too that it's out of whack. Stop. Go back into play. We'll hit record. And then that's playback for playing back from the playback pedal. No, they're not tight. They are tight. You see the meters deflecting on the record signal, but we're actually listening to the playback, so you see the meters deflect before the right channel? Left channel. Sounding not too bad now, you know? Considering the age of this thing. Considering the age of this unit, it's not sounding too shabby at all. I mean, I bet if the heads were replaced, it would sound a lot better. But, I think I'm going to call it a day on this one. And we'll leave it at that, because it's sounding pretty good for a unit that's the age of this. And this would have been a good unit at the time, but you got to remember that, you know, back in the early 60s or whenever this was made, they didn't have, like, they hadn't perfected hi-fi recording back then. Reel-to-reel was as good as it got, right? And this being a 3-head, actually a 4-head, because it's got that extra playback head on it. It's not doing too bad, you know, especially considering that this tape that I'm recording on is probably 60 years old, right? This is an ancient tape. It's a Bell Clear recording tape. It was a whole 52 cents when it was new. Audio Magnetics. I don't know if it says Mandarin on it. That's what's on it when I got it. I erased it. But I don't know when this was made, but it was old. Like this is really, really, really old. We take a close-up look at the recording head. You can see the groove that's worn down here, right? That's there's a fair bit of wear on that head, and that's probably contributing to the sound quality. All the heads have some wear on them, obviously. You can see the right at the bottom of this one. You can see the groove there. You can catch your fingernail on it, and that's the indication that when it's worn that bad, it is going to affect the sound quality, and that is likely why the treble is a little bit more pronounced than the bass, because the head gap is wearing. And as the head gap wears, it affects the frequency response. Anyway, I'm going to throw this one together because I think this is probably about as good as I'm going to get this unit. I went from a unit that wasn't functional at all to a unit that records and plays both channels. And I lubricated the motors and took care of all that other stuff that needed to be taken care of. So I'm going to throw this one together. We'll give it another test for playback once I got it together, and I think we'll call this one done. This cabinet probably was an afterthought. Looking at the way that this is designed, which is like holes cut in the side to pass the cables through, I think this probably, when it was new, was probably designed for use in a console, like maybe a radio station, and it would have been just a chassis. And this was pulled out of service, and someone built a wood case with some fake alligator skin. I don't know what that reminds me of, but anyway, you get what I think. Someone just put that in a box, because the way that the plugs and everything are recessed, there's a big gap around there, and there's holes in the back. I have a sneaking suspicion that this was probably one designed for use in like a studio or a radio station, and it probably sat in a console at an angle like that, and therefore you wouldn't need to have anything to lock your reels in place. You would just drop the reel on. It probably sat either horizontal or more than likely like that at an angle, used in like a radio station. That's what I think this one was originally designed for when it was in service. Alright, got the tape cover back on. Turn the power on, let it start warming up so we can play back the pre-recorded tape. We'll see how this one sounds. A little easier to thread when it's got the slot on the front here to pull the tape through. Actually a whole lot easier to thread with the tape guide cover in place. Playback, go. And it's playing the right speed now. Wow, okay. I don't know why someone would have put that resistor on there. See, that's much better. That sounds great. Another reason I think this was probably a radio station type unit is because of the way that they have this switch here. You got to start and stop, right? Pretty much instant starting. Right, so your DJ's got his program queued up, and then he got this switch over here. You go to rewind, you just do that. So when he's done, he hits the rewind button or hits the rewind switch and rewinds his tape back. And then when it gets to the beginning, it will just stop. I'm going to throw the other tape on. We'll just make another quick test recording and then I'll call it a day. Okay, we're ready to record. Hit record. I think on this unit, if we stop it, if we want to drop down to the slower speed, I can just remove this this capstan sleeve here. I think it just pops off. If I take my pliers and just give this a little bit of a crank, it probably will pop off. I think it pops off. Usually it's held in place with a screw, but it might be on pretty tight. Yeah, it is. It is on tight. Oh well, I won't worry about that. But you pull the capstan sleeve off and it should drop the speed to 3 3/4. Right now it's at 7.5. Anyway, back to record. Now, wound footer's a lot less now that the proper take-up torque is on here, as you can see. Got lots of torque now. So I changed a total of 10 capacitors in this unit, and 6 were electrolytic, 4 I put Mylar caps in. I put these ones here in. Yeah, 10 capacitors were changed, lubricated the motors, eliminated this modification that was causing the take-up spool to have no torque, and reseated both the playback and the record head because they were bad. That's why I wasn't recording on one channel. Was the plug itself was the connection. Oh, and clean the controls. But both the record and the play heads where they plugged in, connections were bad. On playback, the playback side, it was causing the loss of the right channel. On the record side, it was causing the loss of the left channel. Anyway, yeah, I think this thing is as good as I expect it to be for something that's as old as this, considering the fact that those heads have a significant amount of wear on them. But you're never going to find them. I didn't do anything with the tape counter belt. The belt is missing. It needs a tape counter belt. I'm not too concerned about that. When I do get a hold of the fellow that owns this thing, I'll let him know what I've got. I've got another couple pieces of equipment of his as well that I will be getting to as soon as time permits. But this is the first one, and it is now fixed. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.